Hi everyone, welcome back. Today is the day. Today is the day to try the new Patrick Ta foundation. I am so excited. If you know me, you know this is one of my all-time favorite makeup brands, makeup artists, and anytime he releases a new product, I am so excited. So I picked mine up yesterday. I have not tried it on my face. I did swatch it in the store yesterday, but that's it. So we're gonna try it. I'll give you all my thoughts. I'll wear it all day today and do a little bit of a wear test. And that is today's video. If you're new here, my name is Blair. I do all kinds of beauty content here on YouTube. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get started. I cannot wait. Let's get into it. So the name of this foundation, it has a very long name. The Patrick Ta Major Skin Hydra Luxe Luminous Skin Perfecting Foundation. It has a very, very long name. I picked up the shade number 10. I was torn between shade 6 and shade 10. I did go in store so I could swatch those two and see them, and I went with shade 10. Shade 6 I could definitely get away with, but I do think 10 is a little bit better. Shade 6 looked a little bit too fair for me, but it did look like a nice neutral undertone, as did shade number 10, which I'm very excited about. It is hard to find a true neutral undertone these days. Let's get into this foundation. Now, as I said, if you are familiar with my content, I love Patrick Ta. I've reviewed pretty much all of his products. I own pretty much all of them. I love them. The blushes are my absolute favorite. First thing I noticed when I saw it in the store yesterday is, okay, the packaging is 10 out of 10. Beautiful, heavy glass bottle with the classic Patrick Ta, like rose gold mirrored packaging, which does get very fingerprinty, but it is really nice and beautiful to look at. I mean, it feels very, very nice and luxurious. This does retail for $58, and you do get 1 fluid ounce, which is the standard size of most foundations. All right, let's get into the product. So it does have a pump. It has a really nice pump, actually. It's one of the, like, I don't know what you would call it, but it's one of the larger, more like oval shaped pumps, which I actually like. I don't know why, but I noticed that right away when I swatched it in store yesterday. And okay, let's swatch this on my hand now. This is shade number 10. Unless I'm wrong, I think this is gonna be like a spot on shade match, but we'll see. So this is shade number 10, which is a neutral undertone. And yes, I do agree. I think this is actually a neutral undertone, which is crazy. Now let's talk about the texture of this. So it's definitely a very thin consistency. Like that's it blended out there. Like, look, you can barely see it on my hand. But as you can see, yes, it is extremely glowy. And that's kind of what I'm hearing the most about, is how glowy this product is, and if it will be too glowy, if it will wear well, all of those things. A little bit about me is my skin is pretty normal, but I do have an oilier T-zone, and actually I'm noticing more and more as I get older that my T-zone seems to be getting a little bit oilier, but I definitely don't have dry skin. It is very glowy for sure. I haven't even put it on my face yet, but I could tell right away yesterday when I swatched it. Yes, it's very glowy. It has a very thin, serumy texture is how I would describe it. And it's very hydrating. Like you can feel the hydration in it just if you blend a little bit of it on the back of your hand. It's very, very hydrating. I have heard him say, and I looked at the ingredients, there is no mica in it. So a lot of luminous foundations will often have mica in them, which gives them that luminosity. And if you look closely, it can almost look like a little bit of shimmer. This does not have mica in it. So all of the glow is coming from the ingredients. And the second ingredient on this foundation is glycerin. Glycerin is an extremely hydrating ingredient that you see in a lot of skincare products. And that's the second ingredient in this foundation. It also has squalane, which is also a really hydrating ingredient. And then I've also heard him say there are 3 types of hyaluronic acid in here. So that's definitely where a lot of this glow is coming from, but it's not coming from any shimmer or glitter. This foundation comes in 30 different shades, and it should be a medium buildable coverage, obviously radiant finish. So let's test it out. Let's test it out. Now, I have actually seen him use a sponge to apply it, but I am not a big sponge person. So I have a sponge here. I was thinking maybe I could do like side by side possibly. I'd never apply foundation with a sponge, but I guess we could try it just because I have seen him do that in so many of the promos. So we'll just go for it. I'm going to use this sponge. This is the Flower Beauty sponge. And this is how I've seen him do it. He kind of spreads it on the back of his hand and goes like this. Now, I did not get a ton of the product. So like this wasn't even a full pump. This is probably like half a pump, if not less than that. I don't love sponges typically because I just think they eat up a lot of your product, and I don't love that. I don't know, I've gotten so used to using a brush really since I've been on YouTube. I started using brushes and then I just never went back. I loved it. Okay, so there is that applied with a sponge. So I would say definitely like a light amount of coverage there. Not a lot of coverage at all, really. That's another reason I typically like a brush, is I do typically feel like you get better coverage with a brush, depending on the brush. But I wanted to at least do one application with a sponge because I have seen him use a sponge in almost all the promo videos that I've seen on this foundation. But as you can see, yes, it is very, very glowy. I purposely used a little bit less skincare today than I normally do in my morning skincare routine. I didn't want to go too hydrating with all my toners and things just because I knew this is going to be very hydrating. And I've also heard him say that he wanted this foundation to be something you could apply if you did not have a skincare routine. So he wanted you to be able to use this on bare skin, basically, with nothing else. I don't ever do that with product, but I have heard him say that that was one of his goals when formulating this foundation. Another thing to note that I'm happy about, there is no scent. So that's positive. Okay, so what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is let's go in with a brush and add a little bit more right here. But you can see how glowy it is. I will later in the video get a clip in natural light, because also remember that I do film with studio lights. So studio lights always make you look glowier than you are in real life. So just remember that. And I'm just going to use my favorite brush. This is the 106 from BK Beauty. And I just kind of grabbed it off the back of my hand. And I'm just gonna start building this up where I need it. I'm not really bringing it under my eyes. I never bring foundation in that area. I save that for my corrector, my concealer. I don't really need any more coverage on my forehead, so I'm not gonna take any there. I do think shade 10 is a spot-on shade match. I do not have on any self-tan right now. I do have just a little bit of like natural color. I'm a little bit deeper than I typically am, but I don't have any self-tan on right now. There it is on this side of my face. So it did build up a little bit right here, but not a ton. You can definitely still see all of my skin peeking through, which is not a bad thing for me. I like foundations that are usually a medium coverage or even a light coverage, and then I just use concealer where I need it. So that's not a bad thing for me, but there you go. So this is shade number 10 with a sponge and then with the brush on top. And I probably used in total less than a pump there for this whole side. Right off the bat, it's reminding me of this, the Makeup Forever HD Hydra Glow. Now, I love this personally. This was in like my top 10 foundations video. This was actually in my top 3. That's what this is reminding me of. The Patrick Ta is definitely a thinner texture than this one. This one's a little bit thicker, And the Patrick Ta is just a little bit more of a serum, whereas this is just more of a traditional liquid foundation that's slightly on the thicker side, but that has a lot of hydration to it like this does. So the Patrick Ta is definitely thinner on the skin, but the effect and like the finish overall is very, very similar to this. Let's go in and do this side. This time I'm going to do what I normally do with foundation, which is like dot it on. I do have to just point out right away, okay, he nailed the neutral undertone with shade number 10. So that I am very happy about because that drives me nuts, and that's something that happens to me quite a bit with foundations. They're never neutral when they say they're neutral. This is truly neutral. And I did swatch shade 6 yesterday in Sephora, and it also looked neutral, just so you know. But yeah, I mean, this couldn't be much of a better shade match. So I'm just kind of pressing it in, and I'm using a 106. Yeah, I am just a brush person. I guess I've just gotten used to it over the last like 2 or 3 years, but I like a brush. I think you get better coverage, and I don't know, I definitely prefer them. Okay, so right off the bat with the brush, just with that first little bit, I still have more on the back of my hand. You definitely get more coverage. So I would say I still personally would go with a brush. However, he definitely seems to be using it more with a sponge. I've also seen him underpaint a lot with this, and that's mainly when I've seen him use the sponge. I don't know that I've seen him just go in on a bare face with the sponge, or maybe he has and I just haven't seen it. But I've seen him underpaint quite a bit with this. Okay, so there is that bit. Blend it in. Let me turn the brightness down here. But I mean, you can see there's some definite glow there. And like I said, I'll show it to you in natural light later as well, so you can see. But I mean, there's some definite shine for sure. I'm just gonna take what I have left here on my brush. I mean, you can just feel the skincare in this. Even when you're applying it, it doesn't feel like makeup. It feels more like a skincare type product. I wanted to also mention, today I used my go-to SPF when I'm trying a new product and I want to make sure nothing goes wrong. So I used the Skin 1004 SPF today. And that SPF, I would say, is very hydrating. So I did have some hydration starting out. You know, I know he made this to be like a product you could use with no skincare at all. I personally always apply like a whole skincare routine. This is always going to be really, really glowy on somebody like me. And I would assume most people probably are going to apply this at least over like an SPF. So, you know, maybe if you didn't want too much glow, start out with an SPF that's not super glowy, but at the end of the day, this has a lot of skincare in it, and it's gonna look glowy, you know. So I'm looking up close now because I want to see if it's doing anything weird on my skin, and it's not. Like, there's no pilling. I mean, it looks really nice. Looks really nice. It just looks very, very hydrated. Like I've just applied a ton of skincare. But it looks nice on my skin. Now, another thing I did want to point out is I do not have acne prone skin, and I don't struggle with a ton of texture in my skin. Like, pores are not like a main concern for me. I do have pores. Everybody has pores. But like, if I'm going to notice them and a foundation is going to magnify them, typically it's like right in this area. And I mean, obviously you can see them, like they're there, but they don't look heavily emphasized to me. But like I said, that's not a big concern for me personally, because I know that's going to be a big thing for a lot of people that have oilier skin or more texture in their skin. Is this going to emphasize all of those things? On me, it truly, like it's not emphasizing anything. It looks really nice and smooth on my skin, but as you can see, I mean, it's glowy. Okay, so like it's been on my skin for about 5-ish minutes probably, and like I just touched my face and you can see that the product came off there. So I don't see a way no matter what your skin type is, that you wouldn't need to use at least a little bit of powder with this. I'm assuming pretty much everyone is going to need to set this if you're wanting it to last all day long, which most people do, I would say. So it does kind of transfer. It's definitely not setting down at all. I mean, it's definitely transferring on my fingers, which that's not that unusual for a foundation this dewy and hydrating, but I just wanted to point that out. So those are my initial thoughts. I do think it looks pretty. I love the shade match. I mean, the shade match is like so good, which I love it when that happens. I love when a new foundation comes out and they actually do have that perfect match. Bottle is beautiful, but it is a lot of glow. It's a lot of glow. All right, I am going to do the rest of my makeup, and then I'll come back and I'll kind of give you like any additional thoughts. I am gonna set it with some powder. Maybe I'll come back and do that with you in a minute. And then I'm gonna wear this all day and we'll do a few different check-ins. All right, I did some concealer, corrector, cream bronzer. Now we're gonna set the face and we're gonna use this powder. This is my new favorite loose powder right now. This is the HD setting powder from Makeup Forever. And this is the shade Corrective Rose, which is just a very beigey pink undertone powder. It's not intensely pink, but this is a really nice mattifying setting powder, and obviously we need to set because we're looking at very shiny. So I have some powder in here. So I'm gonna start with just kind of lightly setting the whole face, and then we'll probably set a little bit more in the T-zone area. Let me grab a big brush. This is the Refer 30 brush. It's just a really large powder brush. And then we'll, go into a smaller one after we kind of lightly set the whole face. So I'm just kind of going around and lightly setting this. I have also heard Patrick Ta say on one of his Instagram videos that I was watching, he definitely tells you that you need to set this foundation. So I don't personally see really any skin type where you could use this and not use any powder. I mean, maybe if you had like extremely dry skin, but you would have to have like literally no moisture in your skin at all, I think, to get away with using this with no powder. So we lightly set. That definitely helped significantly. We definitely still have some glow, but the glow is much more manageable now. It's definitely toned down quite a bit. So I am gonna set a little bit right here in my T-zone because I didn't get much powder there with that larger powder brush. So let me look up close here, but I mean, still everything is sitting so nicely on my skin, which I'm very happy about. Okay, let's do some powder kind of in the center of my face. I will say something I also heard him say is that other products, cream products or liquid products, layer really beautifully over this because of that serumy texture. Creams and liquids just kind of melt into the skin or into the foundation, and I would agree with that. Like when I applied this, the Rare Beauty cream bronzer, my concealer, everything just blended really quickly. Okay, so you can see like the powder there made a huge difference. Huge difference. So this side has no powder, this side has the powder. So you can see we still have a little bit of that glow, but it's not nearly as glowy as what it was before. I'm gonna go in and set the other side. So I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup and I'll be back. So here it is. I applied my whole face of makeup. I haven't applied any more powder since we powdered earlier, and this is what it looks like on me. It obviously still looks very glowy. I mean, there's a lot of glow still on my skin. It's definitely much more manageable at this point. It's not nearly as glowy as it was when we first applied it, but as you can see, I mean, there's definitely still some glow. Now, some of it's coming from the lights in here, and some of it is because I am hot right now. It's so hot here today. And it gets hot in this office. It's a tiny little office, and I have these lights on, and it gets warm in here. So I am warm. But all that aside, it looks glowy, even if it wasn't hot in here. It has a lot of hydration, a lot of shine, but it is beautiful. It's beautiful on my skin. It looks very smooth. It layered beautifully with all of these products, with the powder, everything just applied so seamlessly, and it doesn't look heavy on my skin. I will say that as well. The makeup does not look heavy at all. It's just very glowy. It's very glowy. So that is going to be the main thing, I think, with this so far. Now, obviously, I don't know about the wear. I'm going to wear this for the rest of the day. I'm going to wear it as long as I can today. And I'll get some natural light clips for you, and we'll do some check-ins and kind of see how it wears, because that's going to be the main thing that I'm curious of, is how is the wear on this foundation with it being so hydrating. Because this product that I mentioned earlier, the Makeup Forever HD Skin, this one is also pretty glowy. I mean, I would say it's about this level of glow, but this is actually very long wearing. Now, like the Patrick Ta foundation, I also set this with a loose setting powder. So, you know, I wouldn't wear this either with no powder, but this is very long wearing, and it's about this level of hydration and glow. You know, we'll see how it wears. I am not going to use a setting spray. Typically, pretty much every time I do my makeup, I use some type of setting spray, usually the Charlotte Tilbury. But today I'm not going to do that. I might add a little bit more powder right here. Actually, I guess we'll do that quickly. This has been something I've been loving, which is the new Tower 28 powder. This is the Pink Palisades color. All right, I guess I'll just use this. This is the only one I can find. This is the Real Techniques setting brush. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more powder right here, because like I said, if I get oily, it's typically like right here. I don't have super oily skin, but I have noticed in the last like year or so, I don't know if it's because I'm getting a little older, I don't know, but I seem to get even more oily in my T-zone. So I'm gonna add a little bit of powder here. All right, so I am gonna wear this makeup all day, and I'll see you in a few hours for our first check-in. All right, it's been about 3 hours since I applied this makeup. I've been out, so I thought now would be a good time to do a check-in. It is 97 degrees today, so it is hot. And I'm trying to find like the best light where you can see. So this is what the foundation's looking like. I have not powdered yet since the previous clip. So no powder since the application. I mean, it looks decent. It's definitely, I feel like I'm definitely a little bit shiny, or very shiny, like right here. But that's pretty normal when it's 97 degrees, honestly. But I wanted to at least show you what it looks like in natural light. Honestly, it's held up better than I thought. I was a little bit worried about this. I was a little bit worried about this, especially with it being 97 degrees. But so far, it's not bad. It's just definitely, it's glowy. So, you know, you have to kind of know that and be okay with that going in. But I mean, it looks nice on my skin, and I'm just like sitting in my car. So to me, there's no truer way to see yourself than a car. A car will like show you everything. It's kind of scary. So if I bring the camera really close, this is what it looks like. Honestly, I mean, it doesn't look as shiny as I maybe thought it was going to at this point for it being this hot. So I just wanted to give you a little update. All right, another check-in. So I'm just standing in front of a window right now, but this is what it's looking like. I have not powdered yet either. Sorry if it's echoey, but this room is pretty much empty, and unfortunately it gets really good natural light right here. So this is really the best way for me to stand and show you. I haven't powdered though. since application like 5 hours ago. I did want to point out, I definitely think like it's rubbed off right there. Do you see that? See how my skin is like kind of poking out right there? Not so much over on this side. I don't know, maybe I didn't set that area as well, but I do think it's kind of worn off there. And then you can see like on the sides of my nose where my sunglasses were, which that truly happens with every single foundation. I have yet to find one that doesn't do that, even if I use powder. But this is what it looks like. I mean, it still looks decent, but it definitely is still it's very, very glowy. I know I keep saying glowy over and over, but that's just the main thing with this one. If you have oily skin, I just don't know how this would hold up on you. I think it's probably gonna be a pass, but I mean, I definitely don't dislike it at this point, but I used a lot of powder. This is what it's looking like after about 5 hours. I'm gonna keep wearing it for a few more hours, and I'll be back and we'll wrap up my thoughts on this foundation. All right, it's the end of the day. It's been 8 hours of wear. I have not powdered at all. So this is just 8 hours of wear, no touch-ups or anything, other than I added a little bit of lip gloss earlier, but nothing on my skin. So as you can see here, definitely looks shiny, shinier than it looked earlier in the day when we applied it and we powdered right here. Definitely started to get more shiny in this area again. But what I will point out is, other than like this area right here, which I pointed out earlier when we were in front of the window, looks like I've lost some of the foundation here and even a tiny bit over here on this side, but not as much as over here. Other than that, it hasn't really worn away, which is good. But like I said, I don't have super oily skin. I do have an oilier T-zone, but I would not classify my skin as super oily. So if I did have oily skin, it might have, broken down by this point. But for my skin type, it's lasted well, other than like this jawline area. Now let's just talk about what I think of it overall. I think it's a pretty foundation. Am I a little bit disappointed? Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I wish they had just taken a little bit of the glow out. I think if they had made this more of a satin finish foundation, I think this would have been like a slam dunk. Truly. I think if they had just taken a little bit of the glow out, I just think it would have appealed to more people and it would have worked for more skin types. Having said that, I do feel a little bit of disappointment just because I wanted this to be my new favorite foundation, and I love Patrick Ta and I love his products, but I do think this one has just a little bit too much glow. However, I do think you can work with it. Like I said earlier when we applied it, I thought it looked really nice after we used this powder, the HD setting powder, and after I applied a little bit of this earlier to kind of finish off my T-zone. It looked really good to me. It just is going to get oilier or shinier throughout the day, I would say, on most people, unless your skin is just extremely dry. It's beautiful packaging. The shade match is incredible. And I can make it work with powders, but you're gonna have to powder it. And honestly, if you have oily skin, I would skip it altogether. I think even if you use a lot of powder and try to mattify and touch up throughout the day, I still think it's gonna be too hydrating for you. If you have combo skin, I think it's doable if you're okay with a very hydrating foundation, but you're gonna need some powder, some loose setting powder. I wouldn't even recommend using like a pressed powder. I would say you need a loose powder because typically that's what sets makeup the best. And then at the end of your makeup, maybe go in with a pressed powder. I think you can make it work. You might even need to use like a mattifying primer. I have not tried that yet. I will definitely try that at some point coming up, but combo skin, I think you can make it work if you're okay with some glow, because even if you use powders, you're gonna have some glow. If you have dry skin, I would maybe look into this. If you like a glow though, because some people, have dry skin, but maybe they don't want that like dewy, luminous kind of look. So overall, you have to want that. Because even if you powder, you're still, like you saw me use powder all over my face earlier, and we still had some glow on the top of my cheekbone. So I don't think there's any skin prep primer powder that's going to keep this one from being a little bit dewy. So those are kind of my thoughts. I do think it looks pretty on my skin. Like, I actually loved how my makeup looked today. It just looks really shiny in this area. And, you know, that's just the way it goes with foundations like this. I am pretty impressed with the wear. I do think they could have worn a little bit better right here. Maybe I didn't powder as well as I could have. I also did not use a setting spray, which I typically do. And it was 97 degrees today. And I've been out and about doing stuff, and we just went on a walk. I mean, I've been around today with this foundation on, and with that in mind, I mean, it looks decent. It still looks nice and it looks pretty. It's just very dewy. So if you're okay with that, you might like it. If you're not okay with that, then definitely you're not gonna love it. Obviously, this was just my first time trying it, so I will keep testing it. I wanna try it with a matte primer. I wanna try it with powder bronzer and blush instead of a cream bronzer. Today, by the way, I don't think I said earlier, but I did use Patrick Ta, not too much, for blush today. And I wanna play with it some more. I wanna use it with setting spray. And, you know, I would also like to try it with underpainting because I've seen Patrick do that over and over. So I'm going to keep testing it, but those are my initial thoughts. Yes, I am a little disappointed, but I will also say I think it's pretty on brand for Patrick Ta and the work that he does. I mean, most of the makeup looks you see him do, they are pretty dewy and glowy. I think they could have taken the glow down just a little bit though. And I think it would have appealed to a lot more people. So that is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. Let me know if you are picking this up. If you've tried it, if you're going to, let me know in the comments. I will have the foundation linked for you and everything else that I used on my face today in the description box and in YouTube shopping. If you shop through my links, I do make a commission that supports my channel. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and follow me over on Instagram at simply.blair and TikTok simply.blair1. And I will see you again very soon. Remember, simply be you.